management, the importance of knowing project management, the project budgeting, and then the conclusions in general. No. Let us do a little icebreaker, and I think many times we do it with the intention that you start to put your minds in action, no? And the question I have is the following: is if you were given $1 million today, what would you do with that money? And if you would have the conditions to spend it in 1 month, what are all what are the four critical steps that you would do in order to be able to spend that money? Let us give each one at least 2 minutes. So in 2 minutes, you have to decide how you're going to spend this money. You don't have to be exact, but we are asking for you to have 4 steps that you are going to be taking. So let us ask everybody. You can type in the 4 steps. Let me match those 2 minutes. Okay, 1 more minute. So are we able to see what are some of the responses? Cannot see some of the responses. Okay, I'm seeing already there some of the responses. Okay. So I guess we see here that many people might be thinking, well, I have $1 million. I am going to be buying many things, no? So many people would basically not many persons would not go ahead and maybe make a list of everything they intend to buy. Many persons are not thinking maybe to even put the money at the bank. They would spend it right immediately, or you might also rush to give many of your parents or address and pay your bills. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how many of you would do that. And the fourth step maybe is enjoy enjoy spending the $1 million. So let us see the following, no? it is important that whatever step you have taken in this process of spending the $1 million, I am sure is going to be the same method that you generally would take in order to implement almost anything that you are thinking, even in your life, no? It's important for you to know the facts, no? That many people sometimes that, let's say, they have won that money through a bolido. The fact has been demonstrated that many people even end up being more broke than before because they did not know how to spend that money. Also, without a plan of investment, you basically in if you have to spend it in 1 month, maybe in next month you are already broke, no? You already have difficulty or financial difficulty. Um, so it is important that I am trying to demonstrate to you that there needs to be some level of logical thinking in whatever process or that process that you intend to use, no? And when basically managing a fund. Uh, so this process is very critical because then it is the way that will determine if you are successful or not. There is a saying that says you have to plan to succeed, and to succeed you have to plan. And I guess this is the importance of learning how do you plan and how do you also make that plan a reality. Okay, so many of you even might not even have mentioned, well, if I get $1 million, I am going to create a project out of the $1 million to see how I can multiply that money for it to become not $1 million, but to become $10 million in the long run, no? Because I told you to spend it in 1 month, but at the end of the day, you could have seen the fruit of that project uh, way beyond the 1 month, no? So the only condition that I put was spending it, but at the same time, I didn't tell you that you could reap the benefit of that money. It was more the way that you were thinking was the intention was not just to spend the money, but to be able to hold that $1 million as long as possible, but for you to turn it over then, for you to be able to sustain your life with that $1 million as much as possible of what you want intended to do, no? So let us speak about the 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 concept of projects. Many times we hear the word project, and some people understand the concept, others don't understand the concept. But when you understand the concept and you start to projectize everything that you do in life, it provides you a lot of the benefits of learning why is it that you projectize things and why you don't projectize other things, no? But in the majority, even life is a project. Even your education is a project. Even the work that you're currently doing in your business is a project. But there are components of projects that you need to learn. So let us start with the basic. What is a project? And it says that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to produce a unique product or service. I want you to also understand that there are also official definitions of projects found within FAO, within ISO, within the different standards internationally, no? I was looking at more at a definition that can help break it down. And therefore, I want you to take this with you, no? That a project is temporary, which means it has a beginning and it has an end. But something that doesn't have a beginning and you don't know when it's going to end is not called a project. Also, a project is unique. It means it is something that you want to develop with a start and an end, but it's something specific. And then you maybe want to solve a problem. Maybe you want to create a product, or maybe you want to create a service, but it has a beginning and it has an end. Therefore, if it has a beginning, we generally call that the project start. And then if it has an end, it is precisely the closing of that project. Okay, so from now on, if I was to tell you, out of your business plan, do a project, it's important for you to understand that I am asking you to extract a component from that business plan where you can say in 2021, I am going to do this and I'm going to end it in 2022 or 2023. Okay? Projects generally might have different amount of years. Okay? Depending on who is the donor. There are projects sometimes that are very short, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then even they can even go up to 7 years. Okay, but the majority of projects, international agencies like to give money, like the European Union. They like to do projects from 24 to 36 months. There are other agencies that like to give long-term projects like 7 years, no? Especially when they are big projects. Or you can also say, I am going to undertake a project for 1 month. And there are situations where projects also have that time frame, no? It also is important that you have to understand that projects uh, um, consist of a set of coordinated and controlled activities, which means that projects have activities, they have results, and also they have a way in which you are able to monitor what are those results that you are obtaining. Okay, so that is basically a project. Now there are things that many institutions do, like every year. That is not considered a project, no, because it's called more an operational plan, like working on a yearly basis. It doesn't have a beginning nor an end, or it has a beginning but has no definite end, no? What are some of those characteristics of the project? When we say characteristic of project, it means what are those things that precisely will make you distinguish uh, um, to say this is a project and this is not a project. One, we already mentioned that it's unique. It has a defined objective. It uses resources, therefore it uses money or even technical resources, human resources, or use some level of financial resources, no? It has a specific time. There are uncertainty and risks. You also have to use persons or human resource or teams in order for you to be able to carry it out completely. So these are the 6 characteristics that define when you're able to distinguish when we are speaking about a project, no? So that is more in detail. Now, there are many concepts, and I wanted to mention this to you, that projects have its own language and it has its own terms, and it has its own ideas, or what we call knowledge areas. So many people sometimes, when they are developing projects, sometimes people say, oh, the the wording that is being used sometimes is not the best English language, because there are some method by which you elaborate an objective or elaborate a result, or plan the project. Believe me, it has its own language. Okay, it's like if you have a person that is in the area of medicine, the doctors have their own language. If you're speaking to an engineer, he also have his engineering terms, no? Or if you're speaking to a business person, that person manages his own business. I mean, and this is important to know that also the same thing happens to projects. It has its own language. So let us see some of the concepts that it is important that you are going to be seeing every time you're reading about a project. You're going to be hearing about project performance dimension. You're going to be hearing about a project life cycle. You're going to hear about conceptualization phase. I'm going to describe some of them for you to be able to understand why they call it that way, and what is also the definition of the language that we use, no? Project classification, project management, stakeholders, beneficiaries, formulations, risk, appraisals, impact, procurement, control, scheduling, budgeting, activities, feasibility, audit, report, progress, outputs. Okay? So it's important that you see many of those are the same terms that we use in project, and it is important that you be able to read, and then you are able also to understand the meaning of each of those words, because when you're going to fill out an application, maybe they are going to exactly be using these terms, and they are going to ask you, oh, describe for us which are the beneficiaries. If you don't know which are the beneficiaries in term, it becomes difficult for you to say, oh, these are the beneficiaries of the project, no? So as I mentioned to you, I'm going to be describing some of them that I have chosen because of the importance they have, and also because of the time lapse that we might have in order for us to be able to deliver this training, no? So for example, what is project management? You see, when we describe what is project management, we are speaking about the process that we are going to be undertaking to be able to carry out everything of that project. Okay, so you are seeing some of those words there. They are going to be speaking about what are the planning tools that you use, what is the vision of the organization or the vision for implementing that project, which are the team that will form part of that project. So I'm speaking about all these elements, okay? Now, very important, we also speak about project performance management. And it is very important for you to understand that when we are asking for the performance of the project, we are asking how well is that project being implemented. And how well a project is being implemented depends on four critical components. Something we call resources, something we call scope, something we call schedule, and also that determines the quality by which that project is being implemented. Many people call this the iron triangle of management, or also the triangle of project performance management. Because as you can see from the table at the center, everybody wants a good quality when implementing that project. Everyone wants a project also that is very good and is very cheap, no? Everybody wants projects that you are able to spend money and save money, no? But I am going to mention to you that when you have a project and you are not spending all the money, it is very it just shows that you have a bad planning process, in the sense that when you plan a project, let's say you are getting $100,000, it does not mean that you only spend 50 and obtained what you said as the objective of that project. You say, oh, I am good. No, what that is showing you is that you did not plan good. The best projects are many times when you plan 100,000 and you spend 99,000 and 1,000 was not spent. You can attribute that because something small little happened, but that shows that you might have planned very good if you obtain the objective and the results that you said you were going to obtain in that project. Okay, but many times also people ask for 100,000 and they spend 100,000 and let's say 100,000, you spend 120,000. It just shows that you did not plan good, because something happened there that at the end of the day, maybe the material became more expensive. But you said, oh, I didn't have time to be able to determine the exact value of the materials I'm going to be using. Of course, you cannot predict everything, but it needed to be form part of the risk management of that project. In case the materials went up, you had a plan in place, and then that plan is within the project, and then if the material goes up, you're able to make that calibration, and at the end you will not have an excuse and say, oh, the materials went up. No, the project, when it is very well thought, it does not leave room for those changes to affect you in a big way then. Another word that generally we use in project management is called a baseline, okay? And we also use the word scope, okay? Now, what is a baseline? Many times a project will ask you, tell me where you are currently. That currently is telling you, I want to do this project. I want to produce 100,000 pounds of onion, but currently I am just producing 20,000. That currently is the baseline, okay? And that baseline is determining and telling the stakeholder or the funder, I am here in this step and I want to go to a next step. Projects are built towards that they want to move you from one stage to another. Now, let's say you haven't even started. Then your baseline is 0. You haven't started anything. And then you want to move to 10, to 20. Okay? But your baseline is 0. Now, important, there's another word called scope. The scope has to do with the size of the project, or also the areas that it intends to fund or to develop. Many times in a business, you need almost everything, especially if you're starting. But remember, there are projects that will not give you everything. So you need to define, I have 10 areas that I want to develop, but I can only get funding for one area. That one area is called the scope, okay? Or let's say I am going to do, the scope is only local. Only the area of San Antonio will be funded and no other village. That is the scope. The scope is also can be linked to allocation. Sometimes there are projects that have national scope. It means it is funding items that are entirely for the country and not necessarily only one small area. Okay? So that important is important for you to know the scope and for you also to know your baseline. Okay? Many projects indeed require many times that you think very, very carefully uh, for you to define what are the exact area that you want to develop. And if you are very strategic, which is another word, it means that component that you're asking to be helped can create more effect in your project. And we are going to see that word impact as we speak, no? If you're a person that is doing a business and you did not identify which is the area where you will have the biggest impact, many times you will do projects and you find yourself that you are always asking for funding. This year I need it, next year I need it, because sometimes you are not properly identifying where is the biggest impact that you can get so that they can give you that initial money and then you don't need the assistance of outside, but you are able to be the one to fund that project, no? Another word that we come across is called project life cycle, okay? Many can see it in a way, in a cycle, as you can see on the right-hand side at the top, where you have a little cycle. And what is a cycle? It means something that goes and repeats itself over and over, okay? So projects have a start, what we call stage one. They have a second stage, which is called the planning. The third stage, execution. The fourth stage, management. And then the fifth stage, review. Or at the top, you also see that projects have an initial process, a planning process, execution process, monitoring control process, and then a closing. Okay, that's what we call a life cycle. Any project that starts in that way. But it does not mean that necessarily each step it takes one step at a time. This happens next. All of them can be running simultaneously in the project. If you have been able to implement many projects, you realize that many projects can start almost with all the components running simultaneously. Okay? And this is important to recognize because a life cycle says that there is something that starts and then something that ends. Okay? And then it repeats over itself, which means that you can always be doing projects, but it's important that you open one and close it up because like that you're able to determine how effective are you being with the funds that you are being provided with. Another important aspect is the following. If you see here in this diagram, you will see that many projects have an initiation, and then you see at the bottom all the different steps that process of initiation is asking or indicating when you are dealing with project management. You have to appoint a manager, you have to identify your team, and the teams are generally formed of procurement officer, financial officer, administrative assistants, okay, or field officers, technical people, okay. Define the project goals. It is important that you know what the project is intended for, okay. Many of those goals sometimes does not is not an invention of a person only by inventing this is the area. No, many of those goals are sometimes developed at the international level, at the national level, in order to solve problems. Those goals also, when you want to get money, you have to identify what is the funder's goal, what is the country goal, what is the local goal, what are the company's goal, and therefore what is your business goal. Many of those things have to be what we call aligned. It means that they have to be synchronized, they have to be aligned, that one is contributing to the next, and like that. You have to know your customers or who are the ones asking you for that project. Are you able to meet their needs? Are you able to get people interested? When you created that pitch of your business, is because you are trying to attract the buy-in from people to become interested in your project. Okay? Many projects also require that you do what we call feasibility. A feasibility study is kind of a study that is done because you want to identify that, let's say you want to build a car, no? And that car can be of any model, can be of different materials, or it can be of different method by which you develop it. So therefore you have option A, B, C, and therefore when you do a feasibility, is because you want to be able to say, this is the method I'm going to choose, this is the material I'm going to choose, or this is the type of model that I am going to be using. Okay, so that is important. Many times, if I was to ask you, does your business require material or machine? And you'll tell me yes. And I ask you, but which type of machine? And you don't know, it's precisely that process, no, that you haven't, yes, you know what you want, but at the end of the day, there are items that you haven't thought about it or you don't know what it means. And therefore, it is important to do a more deep analysis of what are some of the things that you desire to do. Okay. Also, the second stage, which we are going to be I'm focusing a lot, is the process of planning. I told you all the projects I have been involved, you have to plan it. And planning takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of information, and then that information is summarized, and then you're able to plan what is it that you want. But what is planning is important because when you plan, you create plans. And what are plans? They are written methods by which you are intending to do what is in your mind. You have it in a form of paper that you can share with others, and others can review it, others can comment, they can criticize what you have, okay? And that process of planning is important because you as a person can make a lot of mistakes, and there are some people that have expertise, they can help you. And this is a process that is important for many of you when you are handling a business. Sometimes we become blinded of saying, this is what I want, and no one else can help me, but I know what I want, you know? But there's always room for improvement, and this is very important for you to understand. But you can only improve on things that are written. If you have an idea, but that idea is not in paper, the process of planning becomes more difficult. Okay, there's somebody that needs to write that information and then be able to present that information. So this is what precisely when you did the Canvas-C, it forced you to do planning. It forced you to be able to create your schedules, your tasks, your activities, your budget, and how do you plan to communicate whatever you are planning, how you are going to pass it to others, to your funders, to your partners, to your customers, to your partners, or to the people collaborating with you. Okay? So it's important. The execution is when you start to implement the project. They launch it and they say, oh, the project is just started. If you're doing a construction, you start to see people putting signs that the construction is going to sign, there's news, and there is then people moving to that area, and all the construction started. That is what we call execution. Okay? It is important that you understand that for you to execute activities, you need people. If you want to do activities and you don't know what to do, and let's say you don't have persons that can help you, the execution is affected because you don't have the manpower to be able to do what is it that you are planning. In small businesses, sometimes we want to do everything. It's sometimes good because you learn, but then what is the ability for you to produce and do the products yourself is very difficult. The next stage is what we call the control. And this is where I'm going to be mentioning. Sometimes you hear the word monitoring and evaluation. This is what we call the control process in projects. It does not start there at the first stage, but you need to have been able to plan it, where you have a monitoring and evaluation plan to say, how am I going to measure that what I am doing is very good? How am I going to measure that I said I'm going to produce from 20,000, I'm going to produce 100,000, and then you're not taking any record? Then you have a project that does not have the best control system, and you're going to enter into problem. How am I going to measure that the amount of money that I am spending it in the right time and in the right method? For example, I have seen many projects that start the first year, they have not spent the money. They start second month, third month, and they only have 1 year to implement. And then at the 8th month, they don't know what they are going to do. They have a lot of money, and then they have to spend it in the remaining 4 months that they have. What do you think happens with that project? It is going to fail. Okay? The same thing, a project that is well planned and then executed and all the process, they spend the money starting the first month, and then you can't be overspending neither. You have to spend what is it that you're planning to accomplish. Second month, you also, and all the months, precisely when the 11th month reach, they already know this is the amount of money we're going to have left because we couldn't spend it. And then you have the ability to report to your funder and tell them we need 1 month more, and then we are going to spend the total. Some funders give you permission, others don't. Okay? And also important is if you are going to be doing projects, Many people want the projects to be of quality. And what is quality? It means a project that is very good in everything that it's have planned with. It is like a kid going to school. You have a report card. Do you know that they generate a report card for every project that is implemented in this country? And that report card, sometimes ministries or the government gets bad name because they say, oh, so much projects, so much fail. That's a bad quality management of the project. That's a bad report card. Okay? Many agencies send external people to measure how those projects were implemented. Okay? And finally is the closure of the project. It means the project has reached to its end. Now that's where the project generates what we call its lessons learned. It means things that we learned from that project. If it can be repeated again, what are the recommendations when you repeat? What mistakes were done? Which mistakes you should avoid? The reports, you have all the reports completely, the deliverables, and the closing of that project. Now, very important, I'm going to mention many big projects, they develop what is called an exit strategy. It means a strategy before closing that project, how that project can be provided and issued to another company or ministry for them to continue the same ideas that the project did. It can be repeated, and therefore there is a way, a documentation to show these are the things you need to have in place, the things to do, these are the professionals you need to have in place. All the things are written there, and they are called lessons learned, and therefore you don't do the same mistakes that you did with that project. Okay? Now, there's another word called project milestone. And you're going to be seeing it that sometimes we ask you, what is a milestone that you have achieved when you started the business incubator process? You can state, well, I didn't know anything about project management. Now, in the month of April, I started to learn things about project management. That means my knowledge increased in knowing about project management. Or I didn't even know what was a plan or a business plan. Now, come the month of April, I now know how to develop a work plan. Those are milestones. Those are things that you have obtained as part of a process. In projects, generally, you have results that you want to obtain. Sometimes the results can be obtained in a monthly basis or in a mid-year or in every year. And then we call that results of the project. But before you reach those results, you can also have several milestones before reaching and obtaining one result. Okay? So it's the progress that you are making while you are implementing those projects. And generally, the milestone permits you to obtain the products or the results that you are planning in that project. Another important aspect of project is what we call the timeline or the project schedule. Okay? What you are seeing there is what we call a Gantt chart, and all the projects have this method of planning where you have all the activities and then you want to know which month are you going to be implementing those activities, okay? And then the milestone are what are the results that you're obtaining, and then what results are you obtaining and in what time. Okay? Many of this is the same method that sometimes we ask you that you have the ability to do, like you now have started to do a business. But then for you to become successful, you need to have a schedule for you to be able to determine in 1 year what are all the things I need to do to achieve a result. If you don't know, then you will be just seeing time pass by, and at the same time, you don't know what you are obtaining and achieving, okay? So the schedules permit us to do that, permits us to use it as a planning tool, permits us to see what are some of the things that we need to do. Sometimes also you cannot put all the activities of a project in just 1 month because you find out that it's not going to be reasonable. Sometimes when I started just to do project management, I wanted to achieve everything in 1 month. And then you realize that you start to drag all the activities to the next month, the next one. And of course, you are not very wise in planning. But when you are planning very good, you really know. I always admire women at their household because a woman can have a daily schedule, and you start to see the amount of work they do per day, apart from doing all their tasks. If they work in a company or work in somewhere else, they have to do that work plus the home activities at work. So therefore, there's a lot of work that is taking place. Now, if I was to ask you, a female, prepare me a schedule of what you do, you will find out there's a lot of work. Now, women have the ability many times to do many tasks at the same time. With male, sometimes we like to focus on 1 or 2 tasks and the day has already passed. Okay, so I find out that with schedules, women are very effective. How efficient they are, I'm not sure, but I know they do a lot of activities on a daily basis. Direct and indirect beneficiaries. It is important that you understand this process because sometimes projects ask you that they want to contribute all the benefit of that project to direct beneficiaries only. Okay? For example, many of you that are participating as the leaders of the businesses, you are a direct beneficiary because this project is precisely targeting you to benefit from all the trainings that we are planning. Okay? Indirect beneficiaries in itself include other people that are being impacted, your families, your community, people that you have linked with are indirect beneficiaries, but they are also benefiting that this project is providing benefit to you. Okay? Now the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Many times you don't see it, but in this project, we have a planning committee that is formed from the University of Belize. We have business, the community. We have other organizations also. Many of them are stakeholders. It means that they are impacted by the results of this project, and therefore they have an interest in the project. Therefore, they are a stakeholder. The Ministry of Agriculture is a stakeholder in this project. FAO, the University of Belize, Marketing Board, the Cooperative Department. Okay? So it's important, but also you have other important stakeholders, like your employees, the farmers that you intend to buy or buying from, or even producing a product. So it is going to be words that you're going to see in a project document, and you have to understand what is it that they are asking you for. Now, This is a word that sometimes projects that are big use this method because they have to have the ability to be able to break the project into its components and then to its small details, okay? So what we use, we call it a WBS system, which is a work breakdown structure. And therefore, it is a method that is used because sometimes you want to be able to break the components of that project, and then you are able also to determine the results of that project more easier, okay? And also you realize that sometimes you want to be able to break it even to the resources or the materials that they are required to use, and therefore we use a WS system. And that's why you see some projects start with the component like administration, like training, like equipment or infrastructures. Those are because they were broken down using a breakdown structure. Okay. Why do you need to know project management? It is important that many times people use the knowledge of project management, sometimes not even knowing that they are using project tools and project process to be able to do what they are required, okay? But when you get to know about project management, you realize that, oh, you can say, well, now I understand why I do this in this way, and I am obtaining the results that I want. Okay, when you're seeing people that are sometimes very successful, is because they are using the tools of project management very good to their advantage. Okay, so but I'll give you the reasons why you should get to know project management very good. I'll tell you also that there are people that sometimes get certified in being a project manager. There are many certifications in the world, and that certification indicates that you are a person that has a high knowledge on the using of that project management approach, okay? The reasons why sometimes you want to learn project management is because you will be able to lead people. I mean, you find out that sometimes when you're working with many colleagues, they don't know what to do, but you have knowledge in project management. You can be able to sit down with them and tell them, hey, we need to plan like this, and you guide them. I mean, you become a leader to those people, no? You can also influence others. It means when a person can be able to demonstrate, I know project management and it can be done this way, and you are very precise on what you're doing, you can influence others and say others will say, yes, I mean that what he's saying is true. I mean, we can plan it that way, or we have 10 options and we need to choose from any of those. And then you find out that people can be influencing others of doing things more improved and better every time. Drive results. I mean, I always tell people many businesses do a lot of work, but if you go back to their history, they cannot show what they did because it's not documented. It was not done in a way they can show the results. Maybe it's in the mind of somebody, but it's not written, and in project, if it was not written and recorded, it did not happen. Also, it can affect changes. When project management is implemented, you can see and say, we were here in this stage and now we are here. This month or 2021, 2022. The next is the impact causes. Remember, I mentioned the word impact. I mentioned the word impact, and that impact is that it is a result that is a long run. Let's say, for example, this incubation process is intending for you to gain knowledge of how to handle a business. But the long-term impact of this is that we have successful businesses, that we have a person that initially didn't know what to do, and now the person becomes very confident that he can take a business and run it, or he can develop different types of business and it's going to be a successful business. So you see, those are the impacts of that project. It is a long run, but it's what you will see far in the future. You can trust yourself, you gain the respect of others, and you're able to see progress. Those benefits, of course, are people that want to continue studying. You want to get a better pay. I want to mention something here with the increased pay. A person that does not know project management and let's say has a certain education, his salary might be running the same for many years. But imagine that he learns project management and starts to manage a project. I mean, his salary just goes 5, 10 times more than what he's learning. And I'm telling you that from experience, no? You also have a different way of seeing things. You have a different life. You can become better at what you do. And also you are driven by results. You always say people are driven by results. It's important that you understand that when you start to see everything in a project form, you're always wanting to maximize your time, but at the same time, you start to realize, oh, time is money and also is valuable. And then 2, 3 months from now, you start to understand, oh, I did not obtain the results. I have to change my method. I have to change this and that. And then you are driven that you always want to show the results. Either when you take $10 out of your pocket, you want to stretch that $10 in your business, it's because you then start to become conscious that you have a goal to reach, and then you want to maximize the amount of funds that you use or any resource that you're taking, and you want to produce the results. So in that way, you're thinking like a project manager. So let's talk about a little bit, we mentioned in the previous chapter about planning. See, in a project planning process, there's a lot of plans that are done. Just in one small project, you can have a lot of plan. For example, you can have a plan that is a charter. You can have a plan that is a schedule. Who are the team members? You have a plan of what activities you're going to be obtaining. You have how you're going to measure the results. You have a work plan. How are you going to be doing things every year, every month, every second, every week? You have who will be doing what task. So in a project, there are many plans that are generated, and each plan has its purpose. Risk management plan, procurement plan, the budget plan, the reports that are generated, and all of them use and have their own plan and templates. Now, what are some of the key elements that you need to establish when you are doing a proper planning? Is one, you have to identify properly your stakeholder. You know, whenever we are going to be doing a project, we have to do what is called a stakeholder analysis, because you want to know what is the need of each of the groups And then at the end, you have to be able to set the priorities of which are some of those things that are considered very important. You have to define the rules that how many people will be involved, which institution will be responsible for doing what. Do they have the laws in place to do it? Do they have the knowledge? Do they have the capacity? The meetings, many times people call it consultation, no? Have you consulted people or are you making just decisions on your own and others don't know? Do you define the scope, the budgets, the timelines, and all the tools that you need to set the priorities that I mentioned, deliverables, the schedule, the risk assessment, and the communication plan? I want to mention two things about the risk assessment. All projects that you implement have a risk, and those risks sometimes have to be managed. If a risk is not managed, that risk can kill a project. Okay? Let's say, for example, I am going to build a house, and sometimes for building a house, you need a contractor or a person that knows. So, but suppose you go ahead and hire a person that has never built a house. You already have a risk there that the house might drop. How do we control the risk? Is that when we create a contract, we have to hire the best people to do the house, even though if it costs more. But you have a plan in place. Communication plan. Remember that many times when we implement projects, there are people that are not happy. And if you don't have a good communication plan, people start to create their own perception of the project. And what that creates? People with a bad perception, and then the project is killed. Nobody gets the benefit because a lot of unhappy persons are there. So we have to deal with all those things. I mean, how do you communicate? How do we get to inform the stakeholders? This is what is happening. This is what we have achieved. Why is it that things haven't happened like this and that? All that it needs to be properly communicated from all the persons participating or also stakeholders in the project. In our case, we do the meetings with the stakeholders and then just inform them what is happening. Okay. Important also is the participation that you guys are making into that training, because if you were not participating, that already becomes a risk for us. You're not interested, and if people are not interested, what is happening? Okay. And here Joe was just trying to show you how a project is broken down. And there are people that use traditional way of doing projects, which means the Excel file, but there are recent softwares or applications that you just type in everything and then indicate the timing, and then it's able to generate for you the different schedules, the different timing of the project, okay? So it's very important that if you get to know about any software that can facilitate you, things can become more easier, okay? But first you have to learn the software, and therefore it takes a little bit of time, no? The budgeting. Well, this is a simple method of a budget. What are the things that you are intending to do? Activity, the description, the quantity, the cost, and then the total amount of funds that you intend to do. This is a simple, straightforward template in a budget. Not all projects use the same template, but generally everyone asks you sometimes similar questions or similar description that you need. Okay? For example, this is a little bit more complicated. Okay? Okay? Now, how it is important that you understand that when I showed you the little triangle, which was defining the time, the resources, the schedule, and the quality, it is important for you to understand that the budget is affected by all this. When you change one element of time, that already is affecting your budget. You change the scope of a project, that affects your budget. You change the resources in that project, your budget is affected. You want to improve the quality, your budget is affected. So a budget is not just simply saying this is the amount of money I need, and that is a fixed amount. As I mentioned to you, the triangular element of the component of the project affects directly the project, and all of them are affected by any change that you do from any of the elements in the triangle. So that's why the importance of me mentioning the elements of the triangle in project. And even though I'm going to be concluding some things because I want you to be grasping some of the elements, I am going to also be highlighting that there are formats that you need to be using, that are formats that are being used here in Belize by the different projects that you intend to get funds from. And those templates are important for you to know. Okay, but I wanted to mention in the conclusion that sometimes projects fails because of the following reasons. Summarizing some of the knowledge that we are highlighting in this training. One, many times projects fail because you continue to change things you don't know, and therefore you change your priorities, you change your objective, or you change the results that you want to obtain. Your project has the possibility of failing. You change um, the route or the scope of that project, and therefore more people have to be working more time. Your project can fail. You don't have the sufficient money to hire people or the right persons to help you, or even the decisions that you are making are not the best decision. I mean, the project can fail. That's a reality. You don't know what is it that you still want. Objectives are not too clear because I don't have a strategic little idea plan. I don't have a vision, a mission, or it doesn't become clear. My objectives are still not clear. You can fail when you start to do the project because, I mean, you need to have a concrete idea. What is it that you want to achieve? If you don't know where you're going, anywhere you go, you will say, oh, I don't reach there. And that's not true. In project, it's not like that. Unachievable project you want for your business. If I ask you, you tell me, oh, I need $10 million, but I don't know where I'm going to put that $10 million. Remember the $1 million I told you to spend in 1 month? I mean, and you go crazy spending that $1 million, and at the end of the day, you have nothing to show for it. That's precisely you established on an achievable project. You never knew what you wanted. Or you overspend. I mean, you just get the $1 million and you just spend all over. That's it. That's precisely a project that can go into bankruptcy, and therefore you feel in achieving the goals of that project. A next important item is that, let's say you are producing a product, you don't know what product it is, you even know what the consumer is willing to buy. You can fail in that project because you haven't done precisely that whosoever is going to buy is willing to buy at what price, what amount, what quality, what are the timing that they want those products. So all those questions that we ask you is precisely for you to be starting to narrow whatever you're thinking into a project firm. You also might want to be able to achieve something, but at the same time, the money will not give you. I mean, don't do like that. No, you want a big project, but then the amount of funds that is available is little. No, I mean, you have to start to define things into more smaller components that you can do this year, and next year, and like that, you are moving forward. You also, let's say, many people have very good intentions, but they don't know technically what is it that they want. For example, I always tell people, if I'm going to be producing sweet pepper, it would be good that you try to find out how are the best sweet pepper produced. What do I need to do? Start to get those ideas. Do I need to have a good seed? Do I need to good very good practices? Can I have a certain technology that permits me to use less pesticides, fertilizer? Once I obtain it, are the sweet peppers that I am going to be producing, what size are they? Because the market, you as a producer want to produce the biggest sweet pepper. But when you take it to the market, nobody wants to buy big sweet pepper. They want the medium or the small one. Why? Because sometimes people that are buying it, they don't want to be wasted, or they don't want to cut the sweet pepper and store the next one in their fridge. It will spoil according to the consumer. So all those things you need to know. Or if I am going to be producing in a time that the market is saturated, do I have another alternative to not lose that product? Those are things that you need to establish in your project. If not, you're going to fail and then you get frustrated. Okay? Is it that what I want to produce is what precisely the consumer wants? Many businesses grow very fast because they provide what the consumer wants, what people are willing to pay, and the good price that they are willing to pay. And that's why you see businesses just start to pick up. And I'm just going to highlight to you, now that you have learned a little bit of project management, you basically are in the pathway of also becoming like a project manager. Okay, what are some of those things that I need to do for me to become a very good project manager? You see there, I need to have a very good communication skill. And sometimes we might not be good communicators. I need to be very organized. Need to work with teams. I need to know how to lead in those teams. Do I have the skills? Do I have those skills of selling a product, managing a product? If you can produce very good, but you can't sell, you have to bring people that can sell for you, okay? I always tell people, I mean, I admire people that can sell good product, not without lying, no? But those that can sell and then the consumer is very satisfied with the product. I call that a very good sales skill, okay? What are some of the formats that you need to be aware that, let's say, for example, if any one of you wants to apply to the RRB, the Rural Resilient project that is being implemented right now. This is the format that they are requesting. You see, they ask you for the proposal, the name of the proposal, so you need to establish how you're going to call that proposal. Your name of your business, the contact, if you have registration, the number of members, the country of birth of those members, the household membership, the main activities that you intend to do as a business or under the project. The diagnostic, if you have been able to determine what are those challenges, how does the proposal that you are presenting, how does it solve problems relating to climate change, value chain, markets, or related challenges identified no, in the plan. The main objectives, the results that you intend to do, the activities that you intend to do, and you describe it in detail, the innovation that will be introduced in this proposal, how the beneficiaries, how much women, kids will benefit directly from this proposal. If you need technical assistance, and you have also developed a business plan. And that's why you see here the importance of learning. If you don't have a business plan, I mean, having a business plan indicates that you have done more thinking and more proper planning. The type of technical assistance that you need, who is going to be to submitting that, the name, the signature, and the date, okay? But what is important is for you to see that even though I have one page, this document can expand to 10 or more pages, okay, if you have very detailed information. Another item that you see here is a type of project proposal that is being done under a coconut project. This is the type of information that they are asking for. Okay, the type of name of the project, the amount of budget that you're asking. Is it going to be investment or for expansion? Equity contribution, which means the money that you're going to be contributing, the sources of those funds, okay? When you're going to intend to start, and the information about the person that is applying, and what areas are you intending to cover as part of the and then you have a second part, which is also asking you to describe where the project is located. You can add a map, the type of investor that you are looking at under this initiative, and if this proposal can be shared with investors, and basically that's it. Another one, well, this is a business template. I just wanted to highlight it rapidly for those that don't know what is a business plan, like the table of content, the executive summary, the mission statement, the products and services, the vision statement, the business structure, sales and marketing strategy, market analysis, sales forecast, financial plan, and then your conclusion. This is in summary what the previous one from the coconut project was asking for. And then this is the summarized business plan. So the business plan can even be more bigger than the project proposal that you submit, because it has more details of making that business successful. Okay? So it is important that while we have the ability, and I had indicated to you rapidly what are some of the formats that you need to fill out, I believe that strongly now you will have more conscious that what you have been doing over the past months in filling out some of the templates was precisely like creating a project of your business, no? Elements of those many items that they are asking you, are precisely things that are included in the project proposal. A final question for this training before concluding is the following. Which topic of project management do you need to strengthen from this course? Now I have only opened the discussion in project management, but I wanted to receive a little feedback from you from all the areas that I have rapidly summarized as part of this training. What are some of those areas from the areas that we have described? Do you feel that you need more help? That you feel that it's going to be providing you more assistance for you to go faster? And also, since many of the businesses are different stages, they have different need, no? So I would ask you if you will be able to at least send us 3 areas per person that can give us some good ideas of where we can continue providing you with the support that you need. Okay? So what are some of those 3 areas? You can also, if you we don't have the time within the training, you can also indicate it via email, and I think it's valid, no? Under this training. So this is my number, and also this is my contact information as part of the training. If you have any further questions, okay. Also, it's important that you recognize that some of the consultants have been assigned to certain individuals, but I mean, it doesn't mean the other consultants will not be helping you. You can still approach them and ask for their assistance, but I also think that some of the consultants that have been assigned to you can be of any help, or we can also convey any other help that you might require from the other ones. Okay? So with that, I would say that I am finished with the presentation. I thought I was going to take more time, but I realized also that um, setting up the training, I could have spoken more in detail from any of the elements that you might feel that you need more assistance. Okay? I'm not sure if you guys can speak or you want to address before closing. I would want to ask you if you have any particular question, no?
Yes, hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good night, Doctor. Good night, Doctor. It's I. The presentation was good. I I I was able to refresh. I've heard those terms, but I haven't had the time to put it in practice. But I think now that this opportunity that I am participating in this specific project and trying to take my business into the next level, I think I would have the opportunity to use my knowledge and with the assistance of the incubator to put into place and draft my plans, my strategic plan, my business plan. And this session was very interesting and very informative when it comes to the terms that were spoken in project management. And I think that it would do assist and help all the other persons. Maybe they're like you mentioned, there there are people or projects or businesses that are in different stages. So this would help us and assist us a lot.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Well, I think also we have the ability to refresh and see the courses now that will be published, and therefore you will be able to extract more what are some of the areas that we can provide you more clarification or more detailed information, no? I want to mention to you guys that in studying project management, sometimes only in the one of the formats that we have to develop, sometimes we take a lot of time, okay? And the issue of certifying in the area of project management uh, to anybody that is a project manager is very fulfilling and is a very difficult process because then you have to be constantly updating and then maintaining your certification. And many things sometimes change, and you have to have the ability and knowledge that you change according to how it's changing, no? So I do want to give you everybody um, uh, uh, a thanks for assisting to the course, and then I wanted to conclude because I also realized the time also have passed very fast, no? Thanks very much and have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Same to you, Dr. Itza.
Okay then, have a nice day.
Thanks, Carlos. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so
Okay,
much. It was very enlightening. Good night,
okay
everybody.
then. Night everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, good night. See you all.